Free agency is literally just a week away. So we're going to do this today on Lions Talk Live. We're going to break down a couple different picks we think the Lions are going to project, go after in free agency to try to shore up the team. And then we're going to jump into our next mock draft. We're going to get into all of that and maybe just a little bit more in today's Lions Talk Live. Well, greetings and salutations to everybody out there in YouTube land. I'm your host, once again, Dan Thornton. I want to thank you all for tuning in today for Lions Talk Live. Yes, I've been gone for about a week or so. You know, hey, with this time of the year, figured why not getting a little bit of a break and vacation, especially with my season winding down as far as coaching responsibilities, things of that sort. So why not take a quick break before we go into free agency, and then of course following that up with the draft, and shortly after that, you know, the preseason gets going with training camp and all of those things. So Lions Talk Live, like we said in the intro, we're going to name a couple different players that we think the Lions are going to target and probably go sign in free agency, and how that will impact our draft. I think you're seeing more and more draft boards really not be certain what the Lions are going to do. And it's all going to come down to that number 6 pick. If you're listening to Jeff Risdon, he really thinks the Lions are not going to go after a edge rusher unless one of the top 2 guys falls to them, and that's Anderson or Carter at number 6. So we took that into consideration with today's mock draft. What we're going to do is start in round 7, work our way up to round 1. So without further ado, let's dive into what we're projecting for free agency and how that will affect us in the draft. All right, so let's start this off with going to free agency. We think that the Lions are going to have to target a couple different positions. You know, obviously retain some of their own players, but we're going to look at players via free agency that the Lions do not currently have or did not play last year. So as you're seeing on the screen, Jamal Dean is our number 1 priority. A Tampa Bay or former Tampa Bay cornerback, is 26 years old. Great at man-to-man coverage. You know, it's obviously anybody who's watched the Lions last 2 seasons understands Aaron Glenn wants man-to-man coverage corners. He's 6'1", 206, so he's able to help out against the run. He's great against the pass, good at press coverage, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He does have, coming out of college, a little bit of a history of injuries, but for the most part, during his NFL career, he's been pretty stable and reliable. So we think the Lions are going to be able to get good value here. Probably have to pay somewhere around 15, maybe 17 million a year. But in order to get this guy, I think it would be a huge upgrade for us, a position of need, and help give a little bit more clarity where the Lions can go and invest their draft capital to get the best returns on investment. Second place I think we're going to go in free agency is going to be wide receiver. You know, really debated, do the Lions go after Juju Smith-Schuster, maybe Jakobi Meyers? I think at the end of the day, it just makes more sense that the Lions retain DJ Chark. You know, he's big, he's familiar with the offense, he provides some speed, he's got a rapport with Goff, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of reasons why you really wouldn't need to look somewhere else. I do believe that the Lions have got a nice receiving core, even if they don't get Chark or somebody else, maybe Mecole Hardman or somebody of that sort. But keeping a guy that's arguably one of the top free agent wide receivers out there, who's already got a year in your system, who's already got a rapport with your quarterback, your offensive coordinator, et cetera, who seemed to really come on the last, let's say 6 games or so of the season. Why not keep Chark here? Why not move on to other areas of need? So free agency, we're going to project that DJ Chark does stay with Detroit. Last spot we're going to talk about when it comes to Detroit Lions and free agency are going to be the backup quarterback position. I think the Lions, we can all agree, have the potential to make a run here throughout 2023, the regular season, then into the postseason. So we do believe that the Lions need somebody who's experienced as far as a quarterback. Getting a rookie would be ideal, but at the same time, the downside of that is you're going to put somebody in potentially if something happens to Goff that doesn't have any NFL playing experience. So in my opinion, the Lions would be better off going after someone like Sam Darnold, somebody who's played at multiple teams, has experience, isn't going to cost you a ton of money as far as signing. So why not get a veteran, experienced, and capable backup quarterback in case something should happen to Goff? season doesn't come to an end, you're not left scrambling, trying to trade or do something to bring in a veteran quarterback presence. Instead, you've got somebody who's been there, done that, and not going to break the bank, having a solid, quality backup quarterback. Okay, as promised, we're going to start off with the bottom of the Lions draft and work our way up to the top. So at 194, we just felt there's too much value. Will Mallory, the tight end out of Miami, Florida. Obviously, the Lions appear under Brad Holmes to not want to really focus high draft capital on a couple different positions. One of those being tight ends, another one being linebackers and running backs. But we do believe that right here, Will Mallory will serve a lot of purpose for us. He's got the size, he's a proficient run blocker. And let's be fair, the bulk of the Lions' tight end play comes out of play action and things of this sort. This is why after TJ Hockenson was traded, we actually saw production go up from this position as other teams really focused less on it and focused more on the receivers. And that gave a lot of open opportunities for unsuspecting defenses and tight ends to work freely against those defenses. So at 194, we've got the Lions drafting Will Mallory, tight end out of Miami, Florida. Okay, and that's going to move us up to round 6 now at pick 183. You're going to find Antonio Mafi. I would just say this. I think he's really a sleeper pick for us. He's someone who's got size. He's 6'4". Depending on who you ask, he's going to be somewhere between 330 and 358 pounds. So somebody that size to come in and learn how to become one of the guards for us, either this year or maybe in the next year or two. At this point in the draft, I think that's what you're trying to look for, is somebody that you can get excellent return on investment on, somebody who's going to either supersede the draft capital, save on salary, and give you a position of need in the future. Could he be a starter this year? Let's not put that kind of pressure on him. But could he be by year 2 or 3? I think it's easy to say yes, he'd be a possibility at that spot if we're targeting in the future. Now, obviously, if he supersedes that, if his footwork gets cleaned up a little bit, if you watch his hand placements and his follow through with his leverage on defensive players, if those things improve, then I think Mafi is somebody that's going to be a real steal for us, and going into the future, somebody who's going to be a starter. Okay, this next one I think is going to make a lot of people happy. The Lions did something here that, will they do? I think there's a strong possibility of it. At pick 93, the Lions are going to make a trade. They're going to trade up. They're going to give up their pick 154 and next year's 2024 7th-round pick to move up to 93 and select, as I'm sure most of you can see on the screen and be happy with, Jake Moody, kicker from Michigan. Let's be fair. The kicker we had this year, really kind of solidified the position. He was not bad by any stretch of the imagination. So if the Lions don't make this trade and go with Badgley, I think we'll all be okay with it. But what Moody can give you is perhaps for the next 5, 10, heck, maybe 15 years, somebody that can hit from long range, has accuracy, and can really drive kickoffs. So Moody, to me, makes a lot of sense when you're talking return on investment. If you really have the option or the potential to get somebody who can be with your franchise for a decade, maybe a decade and a half, and all it's going to cost you is, in essence, a 7th-round pick next year by moving up, 60 spots, I think you got to look at doing it. So we're going to move on to pick 81 and 82 now, and I think most fans are going to be pretty happy with this. At 81, let's start off with the TCU guard, and that's going to be Steve Avila. Now, who is he? If you're unaware, he's 6'4", and again, depending on who you're asking, which scouting report you're going by, he's somewhere in the neighborhood of 330 pounds and maybe 350. So either way, you're going to have somebody with a lot of leg drive, somebody who can anchor on offensive line on the inside. He's not overly athletic, but I think at the NFL level, he's going to be average, maybe slightly above average when you're just talking about his athleticism. Now, what's the appeal to him? It's going to be his raw size, his power, and strength. If the Lions really are committed to running the ball in the foreseeable future and just hammering teams, This is somebody who does that. This is somebody I think comes in and is a starter unless we sign somebody better in free agency. While he doesn't have elite athleticism, he does have elite size and power. His ability to drive, if you go and watch his tapes, is just off the chart. He can push and bear down on linemen or linebackers and just maul them. He is rare in that sense, and because of that, I think they're getting great value here. All right, going on to the next one. So just a pick later because of what you'll see later. Excuse me. Details of a trade Lions made. But without revealing that right now, let's just go on to what the Lions get via the results of that trade. And that's going to be Jack Campbell. We've all talked about the Lions need some improvement at key defensive spots. Campbell, in my opinion, does just that. He's got size. He's got power. He does not, in my opinion, have ideal NFL modern-day athleticism. But he's got enough. I mean, I think he may have to drop a little bit of weight. You know, right now, he's listed somewhere around 245, 250 pounds. I think he's going to probably have to shed about 10, 15 pounds to pick up some of his speed a little bit. But even so, if he can maintain somewhere in the 225, 230 range, you know, add a little bit more speed along with his instincts that he has, or at least he's demonstrated in Iowa in college, I think he's going to be somebody who can come in and step on in. Does that mean, you know, other people get moved around to different positions? And does Rodriguez get moved to middle linebacker? I think that's a strong possibility next year or potentially the year after that. But 6'5", with his current abilities, I think he'd be a real nice addition to this budding and growing Detroit defense. All right, we're going to move up into the second round, and as I'm sure you guys are all questioning, how did the Detroit Lions get 3 second-round picks? Well, I'm not going to reveal that yet, but just as you saw with the prior description, there was a trade that happened. You're probably getting an inkling that happened in the first round. And yes, the Lions now have 3 draft picks all in the second round within limited range of each other. The first one we're going to talk about is Drew Sanders, linebacker from Arkansas. I mean, he came originally from Alabama before transferring. But what do we have here? 6'5", 230-ish around there. He's got good range, versatility, which, let's be honest, the Lions look for out of all their defensive players. They don't want somebody who can just play one spot. So, in my opinion, Sanders meets that criteria. He's great at blitzing. He's good at run support. He's, you know, above average in coverage, something he's going to have to improve upon. But let's be fair, most rookies at linebacker are stuck in the same boat. They have to develop that coverage ability. So, in my opinion, he's a 3-down defender. He's going to be able to play the majority of the time. So, being able to get him here, I think, is at 55 a real steal for the Detroit Lions, and a defense that's on the rise is getting better. As you can probably see on the board here, you know, the next pick at 50, Antonio Johnson, another person who's a bit of a steal. You know, somebody that we had as the 31st best rated player on the entire draft board, and we're able to get him at pick 50. Now, here's why I really liked Antonio Johnson. He's got versatility all over him. If you watched him play, you know, he could play the nickel, he could play the safety. There are a lot of times in college that he even played the weak side backer. So at 6'3", 205 pounds, with that kind of speed, that athleticism, his ability to help in blitzing situations, run support, and in coverage, I mean, what more could you ask? He's able, in effect, to play your nickel corner at times, play safety, and weak side backer. That's a lot of versatility out of a guy you're getting midway through the second round. And at 6'3", I mean, he just adds another weapon to a Detroit defense that I think we can all agree by the end of the year was looking pretty good. The more positive players you can put on that field, the more different schemes you can come up with to catch offenses off guard, because you've got personnel to create different shifts in the offense and question marks that they've got to solve on defense. I think that's just a big win for Aaron Glenn, Dan Campbell, and everybody in the Detroit Lions coaching staff. All right, now we're moving up to the first pick of the second round for the Detroit Lions, and that's pick 48, and Askia Kia, defensive tackle out of Baylor. If you're unfamiliar who this guy is, you know, Obviously, everybody wants the Lions to be able to get Anderson or Carter, but let's assume in this mock draft, as I did, that that's not possible. That we would have to give up too much to trade up and get one of those guys. So now, what do we have to do to fill some of that defensive line depth that we really want, that apparently Brad Holmes and Motor City Dan want this team to have? This guy here really seems to fit that mold. He is very much like a Jordan Davis. He is a two-gap defender. What do I mean by that? It's two people on him all the time because he's going to demand two offensive linemen or two blockers to take him on all the time. 6'4", 350, maybe 360 some pounds. He's got power. He's got enough speed to be able to get to the quarterback if he can get past the blocks. But this guy is just a mountain of a man patrolling the inside of trenches. He's got something that very few players do, and he's got it in waves. Now imagine, right now, look at him with his strength. Imagine by the time he's 24, 25, 26, when he goes from college player strength to legitimate professional player strength. It's my opinion this guy will be an absolute beast and problem for any offensive line that faces him. That frees up pass rushers to get around, to get after people, or let's just face it, to get into the backfield after running backs. All right, now we're into the first round, and as you can see on your board, something has happened. The Lions have picked 18 and 19. And if you want to know what happened for the Lions to get pick 19, we're showing it to you now. There was a trade. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, as we all know, Tom Brady is retired. They are looking for a new quarterback. They've got enough talent to win, I think, this year, but they've obviously got to solve the question mark they have at quarterback. You've heard Micro Mike, you've heard Fox Sports, you've heard CBS Sports all talk about all the run that may happen in the first 5, 6, 9 picks for quarterbacks. The Lions, in my opinion, in this mock draft are going to be the beneficiaries of that. You had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offering pick 19, pick 50, pick 82, 2024's first and second to move up and get Will Levis. If you watched Lions Talk Live for a while, if you watched Micro Mike when I've been on there a few times, earlier in the year, when I remember Micro Mike asked me who I would pick out of all the quarterbacks, and it was this kid. When I watch him, it's nothing against the other guys. It's just I think he's got more pro skills, body, frame, and an arm than potentially the more traditional top couple selections, and that's Young and Stroud. It's nothing against those guys. I just think if you're thinking long term and you believe in your coaching staff to help evolve some of these quarterbacks, I think you got to look at Levis and say he's got more upside potential than potentially anybody else. Now, moving on from that, what it did for the Detroit Lions, Kelee Ringo, who just a year ago, I think everybody was thinking this guy could be one of the top 3 picks. Heck, let's go back to the end of the NFL season. There were people talking about this guy could be a top 3, top 5 pick. So he has fallen down the boards a little bit, but what the Lions do get is somebody that is 6'2", over 200 pounds at corner, who's physical, great run support. He's got a few flaws here and there, missed tackles on tape, things that coaching is going to have to help him clean up. But at pick 19, I think he's got a real upside potential to be somebody that he can recover and say, hey, remember how everybody thought I was going to be a top 3 pick? Well, guess what? I should have been. All right, so this will mean at pick 19, where do the Lions go? Do they go defense? In this mock, you know what? We didn't go that way. We went for Robinson, running back out of Texas, and here's why. You're committed to the ground game. You're committed to setting up play-action passes for Goff and that offense. You're committed to helping that defense. And even though, as we talked at the start of this breakdown, Brad Holmes has shown he doesn't want to spend high draft capital on tight ends, offensive guards, and running backs. But hear me out. Here's why I went with this pick. Because I think with this guy, are you going to keep him for a second contract? Probably not. But you're going to be able to help with the play action, the running game, and keep that defense off the field. He's great at what he does. He's great inside between the tackles. He's got, just awesome acceleration from lateral to vertical mode. He does that extremely well. He has excellent short area athleticism, extremely fluid in his cuts going in and out and such. He's not bad at catching the ball out of the backfield. If you watch him, he could get better, but I think he's got enough there where you can work with him, especially as a rookie, and help him out. His stutter steps are great to get around defenders. He then splices through space. He's got awesome acceleration off the first step. There's enough there where I think if you're really looking at him as an investment to help your passing game and help keep your defense off the field, then why not go for this guy here? You're going to have him for 5 years. Yes, the 5th-year option will be a costly one, but you're going to get 5 years out of him. More than likely, you're not going to re-sign him. But 5 years from now, the window of opportunity for the Lions is probably, unless they've really just continued to do a great job drafting, you're going to be significantly through that window. So go for it now. Try to get in those playoffs. Try to get wins, and maybe even potentially a Super Bowl run. All right, well, there it is. There's the mock draft. There's the free agency. What do you think of both of these? Where did you think the Lions would be at the end of 2023 based on these? Also, if you haven't yet subscribed to Lions Talk Live, please consider doing so. It takes a second, maybe a second and a half, to go ahead and hit that subscription button, maybe leave a thumbs up, and leave a few interactive comments in the section below. Whatever you're doing, whatever your thoughts are on both of these free agency mocks and draft mocks, I hope you all have something to chew on and debate in the section below. And enjoy the rest of your day. And we'll see you tomorrow on another Lions Talk Live.